Big problem is the infrastructure for manufacturing is already in China. What you have to do is prevent stuff from going over there, and you have to hold on to our intellectual property, because once it goes over there, it's really, really hard to get back.
Hello and welcome to today's MTD Podcast. Today I have got two guests. One you will recognise is a good friend and colleague, the Italian stallion, Giovanni Albanese, who's an advocate for UK manufacturing and technology in general. The second, Noah Graff, is a used machine tool dealer who specialises in Swiss style and multi-spindle technology in the United States, and often prefers to use the title treasure hunter. He has been working in the family machine tool business, Graff Pinkert, for 10 years. Treasure Hunter also runs Today's Machining World, a business-to-business blog about precision engineering industry. And he hosts the Swarfcast, a weekly podcast about precision manufacturing businesses that have common threads with MTDCNC. Gents, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Joe, I'm really privileged that you called me an Italian stallion, but most people refer to me as a Shetland pony, so thank you very much.
Did you not write that then, Gio? I thought you wrote that.
Loved it.
Noah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is so cool, because I never get to be the one interviewed. It's always me on the other side. So this is fun. Secret is that we edit our podcast a lot more than you guys edit it. So it makes me, hopefully I'll be smooth enough for this. But yeah, thank you for the introduction. Just a correction, the family business is called Graff Pinkert. I'm Noah Graff. My grandfather, Leonard Graff, started the company 80 years ago with his cousin Pinkert, and that's how we got the name. But you are not the first person to stumble upon that. I really appreciate this, and it was fun to interview you, Joe. And if anybody wants to hear that, you can come over to ours. So what's shaking? What's up?
Yeah, no, it's good to finally catch up. I know we've been missing each other's emails and calls. Well, I've been missing yours rather than the other way around. Yeah. So just, how did you get into engineering? How did you get into manufacturing?
Nepotism. I am not an engineer. I went to school for majoring in history and film. And about 15, 16 years ago, my dad started Today's Machining World. It was a magazine, a print magazine at the time, about precision machining. He had gone into the family machinery business, and he also had a master's in journalism. And so it had been his dream to kind of combine the two. And he started Today's Machining World back in about 2000. And so I got out of school and wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. And he kind of lured me in to doing the media business. He said, "Oh, broadband is coming, and we're going to be doing all these videos." And I was all about video, and so this was like 2005, and I get in, and it was just a little too early for broadband. But I started writing and editing, and got into it. Had some side film projects at the same time, but I was doing the media business. And then we took the magazine online, entirely online, about 2011 or something. It was finally the first time we actually made any profit. It was when we stopped being in print. And we had a little more time, so I decided I'd give the machinery business a try. It's fun. You get to travel around the world and meet all kinds of interesting people, and then get to do the media business as well. So kind of combine two interests, and then about 2 years ago we started Swarfcast. So it's our own podcast, and it's an extension of Today's Machining World. So that's our thing. But I am not an engineer. I wouldn't call myself a techie, but after you're around a while, you know the differences in various types of equipment and just the little things. I'm good at, if I go look at a multi-spindle screw machine, I can go, oh, it has this, it doesn't have this. Oh, I see this little. You feel this little, really, small spot on the machine. If it's rough, stay away from it. If it's smooth, it's gold. So it's more tricks of the trade. And yeah, you learn how stuff works. But I am no engineer. I just talk to lots of them.
Yeah, we've got a few people like that, haven't we, Gio?
Yeah, I mean, I think that no, great story, Noah. It's the first time I've got to speak to you, so it's an absolute pleasure, and it's nice to learn a little bit how things work in the second-hand market in America for sure, and to see the differences between America and the UK. But yeah, I think that we've got a mixed bag in the UK. We've got engineers that have gone through their apprenticeships, and then we have engineers that have gone straight into sales, and there is a difference. There's no right or wrong, and I'm curious to know, Noah, the treasure hunter you mentioned looking for gold is it rough and smooth. Is that basically kind of a big part of your business then, really, trying to figure out, a decent machine and maybe a not so decent machine?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's combing the earth for, it's a little bit more of a romantic way of putting, I buy and sell dirty, oily, old machine tools. And I buy them for as little money as I can and sell them for a lot more than I buy them for. This is a little bit more, I don't know. When you're doing something, it helps when you frame it in a certain way in your mind, and it kind of makes it more fun, right? It's like sometimes you're going into these dingy old factories, and you're looking for treasure, or you go into some nice shop and you see, maybe you went in to look at $500,000 used Index MS-32, and then you end up seeing something totally, you say, hey, what's that parts washer over there that they're not using? And they go, oh, really? You're interested in that? And you go, yeah, well, maybe. And, you go to some place thinking you're going to sell something, and then you end up buying something. You go to somebody calls you up about one machine,
like my wife,
and you don't have that machine, but you have something else that you can make way more money on. So it's the other guy, the other day, for instance, I had bought two machines. They're called Leico machines. You ever heard of a Leico? They're these machines made in Taiwan. They're kind of like a screw machine, CNC machine. It's kind of like a Brown and Sharp with 10 servo motors on it. We had heard of these machines, and this guy calls us up because he thought we might be interested, and he says, oh, I have two 65 millimeter ones. I buy them, and then they arrive, and one of them was a 42 millimeter one. Which is not cool when you buy a machine and the wrong machine comes. But, we talked it over, and it ended up, maybe it's better that we got two of them. Maybe the other one's more saleable in the first place. I don't know. That's just kind of like our business is sort of serendipitous, and I don't know. This is maybe more of a lesson for life than a lesson for somebody who's interested in engineering of machines. But I mean, it's the same thing, right? You have to keep your eyes open.
Absolutely. I think that life is a game, isn't it? And I think that, like you say, I think having that mental kind of that mental kind of image of your role and your task, I think that it does make it more exciting, and buying and selling does make the world go round ultimately, doesn't it? In whichever way, shape and form, or whatever industry you're in. ultimately, it's the buying and selling that makes the wheel go round. What is the sliding head market like in America? I'm familiar to a certain degree with the American market and the machine tool market out there, and I was always made aware that the horizontal machines were the main machine tools in America. Not really heard much about the sliding head market.
Oh my God! Right now, Swiss machines, sliding head machines. That's interesting. You guys call them sliding heads over there. We just call them Swiss generally. If you can find a good one, like that's treasure right now. Like that's what everybody wants is Swiss machines. There's the top three, the Tsugami, Star, Citizen, and then, Tornos. There's a whole group of Tornos religion, and then there's Hanwha. That's kind of like the fourth one on the rung, fifth one. And if you can find a late model one for not a lot of money, boy, they want that. People related to COVID and people not related to COVID. That's the thing.
Yeah. What's the market like in the US at the moment? Are engineers busy? Obviously, with COVID going on at the moment, but we do hear similar things in the UK about reshoring. I know that's going on in the United States at the moment. How's the market generally?
That's interesting. Well, look, I think first question, business is really good if you're in sliding headstock, that's for sure. As far as reshoring, we've done some podcasts where we've talked to people intimately involved in reshoring. I mean, people that are basically, their organization is all about reshoring, and there hasn't been any proof of reshoring, according to these people. There's lots of talk, there's lots of anecdote stuff, there's lots of we're quoting work, but actual work that was in China and now starting to be made again, that exact same work in the United States, nobody has real proof.
Okay, that's interesting because you hear different over here about the United States.
You hear things,
yeah.
But if you ask the experts, can you give me an example? They will say, well, not really, and maybe I could, but I really can't. It's confidential. I interviewed a guy a couple podcasts ago. His name is Yossi Sheffi, and he is a supply chain specialist. And he just wrote a book about the way the supply chain got turned upside down during this year. And I asked him about reshoring. If anybody would know about reshoring, it's this guy. He's a supply chain professor at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And what he said was that the big problem is the infrastructure for manufacturing is already in China. He called it the ecosystem. So you have these shops in China and they're so interrelated with one another. It's not just making one part and another part, and then you ship it back to England to get assembled, or United States. It's like all these things are related, all these suppliers and vendors, and you just can't undo it. You can get stuff assembled elsewhere, but you cannot change what's already there. It's just intertwined already in their infrastructure. So he says, what you have to do is prevent stuff from going over there, and you have to, really, really hold on to our intellectual property, because once it goes over there, it's really, really hard to get back.
Yeah, that makes sense. Since we last spoke, you've got a new president. How's Biden going to compare to Trump? Because whether you like Trump or not, he was a big advocate for manufacturing in the United States, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, look, I loathe Trump. I think he's a tyrant. But what I will say is that, before he became president, like, our business really sucked. And it was kind of like when he was elected, like a switch flipped, and all of a sudden things heated up. He was good because for our readers, our listeners, they love Trump. Is it because of a certain demographic? Is it because that they're, in the United States, it's kind of weird. You've got like the fiscal conservatives and the religious people, and they're all kind of, unfortunately, they're all sort of got this coalition. But basically, in the United States, if you're a business owner, small business, large business, you're happy when a Republican becomes president because, it's taxes, it's lower regulation. These people with shops, they can't stand when the regulators are coming in, and Trump made their life easier. It's true. And it's also, some of it is just psychological. And if they feel like they're in a better world, they're going to be more aggressive. And if they're more aggressive, somebody else is going to be more aggressive. And that's, that's the way it is. It's psychological. Is Biden going to hurt the way things are? I don't know. I guess the problem is just that I think Trump, I hate Trump, but the thing is, there were a few things Trump did that were positive. I think being tough on China and not taking crap from them, there was something to that. Definitely. He had the advantage of just not caring. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't care if farmers have problems because, China's playing hardball. He doesn't care if something bad happens to anybody. And when you don't care, you're able to make certain hard decisions that other people wouldn't have the balls to make. So the pity is that they'll probably undo everything that he did, even though, maybe 5% of the things he did were positive, 10% were positive. That's a pity. They will undo it just because he did it, even if they think that it's, even if maybe in their hearts they know that it's not bad. But
really, anyways,
I hate Trump. Put me on the record. I try not to discuss politics with any of our customers because it's just not. It's not in my best interest.
Let's hope they're not listening, then. Eh?
Oh, they will be listening, and that's okay. I'm not. They'll also know that I'm somewhat objective. I understand if things are helpful to their business and it's slightly helpful to our business, I'm willing to make that trade-off. It's okay. They can. I just won't get in a conversation about it with them.
It's certainly a really crazy world that we're all living in at the minute, and there's so much change. But Joe and I have been talking over the last year, and one thing that does come with change is opportunity, and there's never been so much opportunity out there that there is at the minute. Noah, just going back a few steps, really, you're mentioning that kind of your sliding head business is growing even through the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Do you believe that it's growing and it's been accelerated due to COVID? In the UK, sliding head market has been growing for years. You don't see a sliding head shop that hasn't got any work or that has not grown. They're like money printing machines. And then add on to that they're already fully built in with automation. You can run 24/7. And then with COVID and and the restrictions of workforces, so on and so forth.
Right.
Has this, helped your business?
Oh, totally. I mean, it helps us because our customers that we have in our database, our contacts, they carry these machines. Historically, multi-spindles have been our bread and butter. Cam multi-spindles and later CNC multi-spindles like indexes but automotive is sort of iffy, and particularly during the pandemic, even though a lot of people were buying cars, it's not easy to be in automotive. And so Swiss is a great place to be. And it's, you would think at first people aren't going to go to the dentist so much to get and need dental implants because of the pandemic, or people aren't going to want to get eye surgery and need medical products for that. But I've talked to people, like I just interviewed a guy who makes, microscopic parts that the guy named Dan Rudolph and his company, they make parts on Citizen machines that are as small as 0.1 millimeter in diameter. And they're making stuff for eye surgery. And you'd think eye surgery, during a pandemic, people aren't getting eye surgery. But he says he has more business than he can handle. So, yes, Swiss is the place to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. We saw that over here. I guess on the eye surgery, I wear glasses, and when you wear a mask, it steams them up, doesn't it? So possibly.
I started wearing contacts constantly now. I wasn't wearing contacts that much, and now I'm all about them because of the mask.
Yeah, for sure. If we look at the sectors in the United States, it's obviously, you go back some time, heavily dominated by automotive. I know you're in Chicago there, but it's, the States was renowned for GM, some huge automotive manufacturers. Is that still the case?
Yeah, but it's more trucks, it's more SUVs. Americans like to buy big cars. We're not into buying Fiats and little toys.
But in regards to prior to this podcast, Noah, it was quite interesting, really, in the way in which we promote our businesses, whether that be in the UK or whether that be in America. You've got your own podcast, Noah, and we were talking about social media. Is this social media and also kind of digitalization and videos, etc.? Is this for you the same as it is for us, the future? In regards to making sales when it's so difficult now to potentially get in front of a buyer?
I think that's true. It's interesting. Like the last two podcasts I did, both Swiss machine shops, both owned by very young people, in their 30s, early 40s. And they both told me that they got business from Instagram. They say they got business from Instagram and business from word of mouth. And, to me, that's pretty interesting. I said, how do you get business from Instagram? And the guy goes, well, we like to put bloopers up on there, when we screw up on a part, we'll make a video of it and people will see what we're screwing up on. And then they'll call us up and say, hey, can you make it? So it's sort of counterintuitive. I think videos are the thing. I don't know. I think that would be a good podcast to interview somebody about, just keep talking about. I keep trying to do seasons for our podcast. Right now we're doing a season on Swiss. We did a season about people around the world, where we interviewed Joe. And I think a season about how do you get work would be really interesting, because people do it in so many different ways. Some people are more traditional with the sales rep, and some people are just word of mouth, internet. I make, educational videos, etc. What do you guys think?
I think that I'm really surprised that guy has got work from posting him scrapping parts. that kind of
it's cool, isn't it?
Surprised me. But no, I think, but that just really does show the power of social media and the power of video, because it's giving him exposure, and ultimately that is how he's winning the work. He's putting his name. And he's getting his name out to a massive audience that you couldn't potentially do driving around in a car every day. And I think that, the world has changed, and, some people are still trying to work in the same way as they did prior to COVID, and maybe word of mouth was the kind of way in which they won work, or maybe they didn't need any more work at that time because they had a full order book. But I certainly think now, 100% in my opinion, that without a shadow of a doubt, these social platforms, video content, digital content, podcasts, I think it is definitely the way in which, people will win work. What do you think, Joe? Do you agree?
I think we'd be naive to think otherwise. You won't be able to illustrate a product it can't sell on social media.
Yeah.
It's if you're going to buy a car, you probably don't buy it over social media, but you probably do your research. You watch a video on it. Probably not the manufacturer's video, because they're not going to tell you the truth. You go to your independents, I guess your MTDCNCs of the car world, and then you make your purchasing decision online, don't you? I can't speak for you guys, but you don't really want to speak to reps. You want to do your own, you want to do your own research, your reconnaissance, and then speak to the rep about hopefully getting a good deal. But Instagram doesn't tend to be as big over here as it is in the US. I know that.
That's interesting.
Over here, Twitter's really strong, really, really, really strong. But it's all about LinkedIn and YouTube, really.
LinkedIn
and YouTube.
I have a question for you then, Joe. Clearly your whole model is based on, for MTDCNC is based on video being the way to sell. So when you go to your clients, do you have to give any rationale? Do you have to say, here's data on videos, or this is why you need to do it? Or is you don't really need to do that anymore?
Yeah. It's occasionally, we're very fortunate that probably 90% of our business is repeat business, so you don't have to do the sales pitch.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, that's the beauty about digital marketing. You can prove it works. You can prove when it hasn't as well, unfortunately, but you can prove it works. And everywhere we go, oh, that's a nice vice. Oh, yeah, I saw it on your channels. I bought one of those, and oh, that's a nice machine. Yeah, it's bought off that video you did on my mate's shop down the road. And we hear everywhere we go. We did 5 years ago, but this last 18 months it has gone berserk. It really has. And why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you go on the internet to
well,
find
that's your only choice now. You're not going to go see it in person.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. No, it's crazy. Just on an incidental note, that phone call we had last time cost me £180. By the way, I thought I had a deal to phone the US, but evidently not. So that cost me £180.
What are you talking about?
I'll put it on your invoice, but yeah, no. So for anyone who wants to tune into Noah's podcast, it's the Swarfcast, by the way.
Swarfcast, yep. And if you want to look at our website, it's todaysmachiningworld.com, and that's sort of one and the same.
Sure. So not to confuse it with my Twitter handle or Swarf and Chips. So it's it's the Swarfcast, and you tell me yours was before ours, evidently.
Well, we've back when my dad started the magazine, his gossip column, his main column was just called Swarf, and so I don't know, I guess that does beat yours by a few years. So it started with Swarf, and then our blog is called Swarf Blog, and the podcast, understandably, is called Swarfcast.
It's been great to catch up. We we should do it more often. Really, we should.
Yeah,
do it
this
more
is so fun. I'm really glad we finally got together, and it's amazing to me that you guys are able to just do a podcast straight through without really having to doctor it up and edit it. And this seemed to go pretty smoothly, but it boggles my mind. You don't want to know how much I obsess over the stuff, just to seem like it doesn't take an obsession, you know, from video, like it's not about being real. It's about the illusion of being real. Sorry to all my listeners. It's just an illusion.
Perception.
No, that's not the right way of putting it. It's an illusion. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Giovanni, and good to talk to you, Joe. When will this come out? You can edit this part out if you want.
This actual podcast is being released on Monday. For
all right.
For our viewers. So our podcast goes out every single Monday. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you as well, Noah. And I think it's nice to be able to get perspectives from different countries. It'd be great to do something like this again. And the subject that you mentioned, how do people win work? But maybe even how do people buy machine tools? How do they, how do you break down barriers to entry, and how do they, take the leap of faith would be a good podcast for me for the future. That is
a great podcast. The thing is, and I know we're going over time, so you can just edit this out, but I like to say, and as I'm being sort of self-deprecating here, but I'm not the most technical person. So if I'm trying to sell a Swiss machine, a sliding headstock Citizen, and somebody is a Tsugami user, I don't think I have the skills to tell them, to convert them to this other religion of machine. I like to think machine tools are like a religion. So I think that's like missionary work, like convincing somebody to a whole nother religion. I'm just a matchmaker. Somebody wants a Citizen, I look for a Citizen. That's the path of least resistance,
Sure.
That's taking it to a whole nother level. So I have all the respect in the world for those new salespeople who can persuade people mine is better than the other one.
Yeah, 100%. But thanks for your time, Gio. Great to catch up as always.
Cheers, Joe.
But so if you want to tune into the Swarfcast, it's available on all the usual platforms. It's a Swarfcast. Go and take a look. But gents, it's been a pleasure. We'll catch you all soon. And for everyone listening at home, thank you for listening to the MTD Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on MTDCNC.com.